So good morning, everyone, and welcome. The first talk for today is the last lecture in this series by Professor Masson. She'll be talking today on the cohomological decomposition of the diagonal in small dimensions.
So this is the last lecture. So before I go to that final topic, I want to finish what I started yesterday by stating and giving enough explanation on a major result which was obtained as a consequence of this degeneration or specialization method that I explained yesterday. And this is the following result, which is due to Hassett, Pirutka, and Chinkel. Saying that rationality or stable rationality is not deformation invariant. So that this was a long-standing open problem. And more precisely, so the situation is the following. So they consider the universal family of smooth, so hypersurfaces of by degree, let's say 2D with D at least 2 in P3 cross P2. So that means that a point B in B parameterized as such a polynomial section of the line bundle O of 2D, which is by definition PR1 upper star O of D, tensor PR2 upper star of PR1 upper star O of 2, tensor PR2 upper star of O of D. So, okay, so this is the situation, and so we are over C, and the conclusion is that then the very general fiber XB is not stably rational. In fact, it is not stably rational because it does not have Chow decomposition of the diagonal. But there exists a dense for the usual topology on B of C, countable union of algebraic subsets, or whether they are closed or not. So it was not specified in this paper, and then there has been a later work by Chinkel and Kontsevich. So in any case, of algebraic subset, say Bi of B, along which so let's say for the moment just write a locally closed algebraic subset such that 40 in Bi, the fiber XT is rational. Okay, so this is the situation as worst as possible from the viewpoint of invariance under deformation. So here, that statement, it is obtained by the degeneration method that I explained yesterday. So the point is to find a special point at the degeneration where the central fiber is not too singular, but has some non-trivial ramified cohomology group, and in fact, this is the Artin-Mumford invariant which is used by them. This aspect of the proof has been improved by Schreier using his improved criterion that I explained yesterday. So I am not coming back to this. Let me explain this because it's quite easy, and in fact, this was some sort of a classical statement already known, for example, in the case of cubic faults, for which that problem is still open. So I like this statement because it's well, it's a rather easy geometry and also a mixture of Hodge theory and geometry. So the point is that the hypersurfaces that we are considering, the varieties xt, if you consider the first projection, the second projection, sorry, to P2, that makes them into a quadric bundle. Okay, so the fiber over a point of P2 is defined by a degree 2 equation. And so now there is the following lemma. Let X over S be a quadric bundle, smooth, the total space should be smooth. Then X, so this map here, so maybe call it pi. Then pi has a rational section. If and only if there exists an integral Hodge class in of degree 4, which has a degree 1 degree 1 along the fibers of the map pi. So degree of alpha restricted to XS. Okay, so if you consider the fiber over S, it's a quadric surface. You restrict your degree 4 class and it has a degree, and you want this to be equal to 1. The only if is obvious, because if you have this rational section, you take the image, then you take the cohomology class of the image, that gives you an algebraic class, and by definition, its degree on the fiber is 1. This is exactly saying that you have a section. Okay? And in the other direction, it's a little tricky, because a priori, we don't know that this integral Hodge class is algebraic. But it will be posteriori. And the trick is as follows. So you see it's a quadric bundle surface, and a quadric bundle over a surface. And a quadric surface, it's a... Okay, so if you take a point here, the fiber XS is a quadric, two-dimensional quadric. And of course, when it is smooth, we know that it is isomorphic to P1 cross P1. There are two rulings. So this isomorphism is almost canonical, but so of course you have the automorphism of P1, which make this non-canonical. But the main defect of being canonical is the fact that you can exchange the two rulings. Okay, so they are called the two rulings. And because of this, we get from our vibration like this, we get a double cover like this, or maybe call it S2. Okay. This is a very standard construction, of course, which over a point S puts a choice of one of these rulings. Now, over this double cover, now your fiber XS is equipped with a one line bundle, that is one projection to one of the P1s. Okay? And now the lines in a given rolling, they form a P1, of course, but in fact this is not canonically a P1, so it's more canonically a conic. Okay? So it's a form of P1. So here, this is a question related to Brouwer class. It's well known that you can have P1 bundles which are not coming from rank 2 vector bundle. And the problem is the fact that on these P1 bundles, you do not have a O of 1 line bundle, which has degree 1 on the fiber. So, but if you have a P1 bundle, I mean, if you think in complex geometry, you always have a O of 2 relative bundle, namely the relative tangent bundle of your conic bundle. So that's why the P1 bundles are always conic bundles, but not always honest P1 bundles coming from vector bundles, in which case, in algebraic geometry, they have a rational section. Okay. So the point is that now over each ruling here, I can put this P1, and now yes. Okay, so now over this, yes, now over this, I have this situation. So this conic bundle, now it parameterizes lines in the fibers of the maps, of the original map here. Okay, you start from your alpha, and which of the one in the fibers of it's an integral Hodge class of degree 1 in the fibers of this map of pi, and then you have this. So let me see what happens. Yes, you have this correspondence. Okay, so now you apply this. You see this diagram as a correspondence between C and X, and so you get this. And now this is a degree. So this is a degree 4 integral Hodge class, which has degree 1 that is integral equal 1 in the fibers. Okay. So now you consider P per star alpha, and now it's a degree 2 integral Hodge class on C, which has again degree 1 on the fibers of C over S2. And that is saying now that this conic bundle that we have, now a degree 2 Hodge class, we can apply the Lefschetz 1-1 theorem. So in fact, this is coming from a line bundle. So the conclusion is that there exists H, which is a line bundle on this conic bundle, and which is of degree 1 on the fibers here. And the conclusion is that this conic bundle, in fact, it admits rational section. It is coming from so there is no Brouwer class, and so this way we get a rational section. So okay. So this implies this, the existence of a section that, let me call it sigma prime. Okay. Now the sigma prime, what it does, that is saying that if for a point T in S, you have now 2 points, say L1T and L2T. There are the two rollings in this S2 over S. Okay, so you have my S, and I have the choice of the two rollings For each of them, I will have applying this sigma prime of L1T and sigma prime of L2T. That will give me two lines, delta and delta prime, which are the delta T and delta prime T, which are contained in the quadric QS and which belong to two different rulings. And now the section sigma of S is defined as sigma of T, sorry, is the intersection of these two lines. And this way we constructed this the section sigma that we needed. And as a corollary, so this is a case where S is equal to P2 under the same assumption, so the existence of this integral Hodge class. There exists alpha, etc. The X is rational. X is rational because now it's a quadric bundle over a surface which has a rational section. But then it's actually a quadric bundle in P3. So you project from so for each point on the base, you have a point in your fiber which is a quadric. You project from that point to P2. And that gives you a birational isomorphism between S, between X and a P2 bundle over the base. And the P2 bundle over the base, it will be clearly, or if you like, it's really the base cross P2. In fact, it's, in general, you will get your X is birational to X cross P2 once it has a rational section. Okay, so. Yes, so this is what is used in order to get the proof here. And now, does that explain to you how we can get this dense countable union? Because now the search for fibers in the base, for points in the base where the fiber is rational, is now reduced to the search for points where you have an integral Hodge class like this. So that means that this is a parametrized. So in fact, the second statement here too is now implied by the density of the locus of T in B, where there exists an alpha in the G4 of XTZ with a degree on the fibers of alpha is 1. But this locus is a Hodge locus, and we are reduced to the density of Noether-Lefschetz locus. And one has to be careful. Noether-Lefschetz locus, it's a particular case of Hodge locus. The point is that we are working with a variation of Hodge structure of way 2. That is, my varieties are 4-dimensional. I'm looking at H4. But if you look at their H4, the Hodge structure is not like the general Hodge structure of weight 4, but it has only this length. Because we are working with rationally connected varieties, so if they have no H4, 0. So in fact, in my situation, I am searching a Hodge class within a Hodge structure which has this tape. And so it's exactly as in the surface situation where I am searching for points where you have an extra line bundle. And it's a general fact, it's the theory of Noether-Lefschetz loci, that once you have some transversality for the variation of Hodge structure, It is saying that a certain map, which comes from the consideration of the differential of the period map is surjective, then you get a density like that, which at the end is reduced. It's nothing complicated. It reduces to the density of Q inside R. Okay, so I think that's it for that very important result. And now I am finishing the lecture on. I come back to the case of dimension 3. From what we discussed yesterday, by application of this degeneration method to the, in particular to the Artin-Mumford quartic double solid, we know that there are rationally connected trifolds, even Fano trifolds, which have no Artin-Mumford invariant, that is no torsion in cohomology, but still do not have a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. So now I would like to explain what are the concrete geometric obstructions to the existence of a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal for a rationally connected trifold. And it turns out that, in fact, everything is contained in the geometry of the intermediate Jacobian and the Abel-Jacobi map. The geometry of the intermediate Jacobian has always played a very important role in the study of rationality since the Clemens-Griffiths criterion. And here it is coming in a more complicated setting because it's not a rationality that we are studying, but a stable rationality. So it's another sort of difficulty. But let me explain exactly what are the results. And so now I am considering a rationally connected trifold. Rationally connected, yes, we could replace this by CH0 equals Z, for example, that will give the same study. So the point is that let's call it X, and we have the intermediate Jacobian. I like to denote it by the degree, so it's the complex torus, which is built using the Hodge decomposition on the cohomology of degree 3. So because the X is rationally connected, you will have H3 of XC, which is H21 of X plus H12 of X. And so this one being the complex conjugate of this one, and the D3 of X, it is H12 of X, complex vector space, quotiented by the integral cohomology of X, which form a modulo torsion here, forms a lattice in this. So this is as a complex torus. And then the point is that you can use the intersection pairing on X. So this is an intersection pairing on H3 of XZ. So it is, I should say, modulo torsion. So it's unimodular. And it satisfies, it will satisfy the Hodge-Riemann relation. So here, on use, so non-trivially the fact that H1 of X or B1 of X is 0. Okay, so that is needed to show that this provides a polarization. And even a principal means that this intersection pairing is unimodular on this complex torus, which is then principally polarized abelian variety. So Okay, so this theta x, it's a theta divisor given by one section of the line bundle. You get from this, you can see this as an integral Hodge class on your complex torus. So now we have, even if the construction looks transcendental, we have this algebraic object associated to x, and in fact it can be understood from the viewpoint of algebraic geometry using the Abel-Jacobi map. Okay, so this is the Griffiths Abel-Jacobi map, which generalizes the Albanese map, or the Abel-Jacobi map for the zero cycles on Riemann surface. So what it does, so we are considering this group, so this parameterizes one cycles on X, which are homologous to 0. So that's why I put this home here. And the Abel-Jacobi map here will map this CH2 of X home to D3 of X. Maybe it's not necessary to put this. And what it does, so the point is that this we are in dimension 3, so there is Serre duality. So this is the same as H21 of X dual. So and then what does the Abel-Jacobi map? You have one cycle which is homologous to 0. So you can write it as a boundary of a chain. So it's a real chain which has a boundary, and you will map it to this to the functional of integration of forms on this gamma. So now there is well, first obvious point is that this gamma, it is defined modulo closed chain. So gamma is defined modulo some t with delta t equal to 0. So that's why at the end I get something which is only defined up to, well, h3 of x z, acting here by integration. Okay, so that so now I am arriving in the right space. On how to explain why this integral over gamma is well defined. Also, this gamma has a non-trivial boundary, and here there is a trick from Hodge theory, which comes from the fact that this space H21 of X, you can see this as the space of closed forms of tape 3, 0 plus 2, 1. Modulo D of forms of tape 2, 0. So this is the Hodge theory, or the Didi-Bar lemma, which tells you this. And when you do this, that gives you the meaning of this integration here. That is, for a cohomology class in here, you should simply take a closed representative of that tape. And this is the one that you will integrate over gamma. And then by applying Stokes formula, and the fact that this form of tape 2, 0 will vanish on the boundary, which is one cycle, you conclude that this is well defined. Okay, so this is the Abel-Jacobi map. Again, the construction looks very transcendental. But in fact, there is a remarkable result, which is due to Bloch and Srinivas, which says that for X rationally connected, this works in any dimension, and again, the assumption can be improved to CH0 of X being Z. The Abel-Jacobi map phi x from CH2 of X home to this G3 of X is is an isomorphism. An isomorphism of groups. So now, so this is very beautiful, but the point is that here we know, I come back to the case of dimension 3, we have an algebraic variety here. Okay, so this is due to this polarization. And on the left, what we have is not actually an algebraic variety, but it is somehow parameterized by algebraic variety. So the point is that this group, it is exhausted by families of algebraic cycles, geometric families of algebraic cycles, as follows. That is, for each B, that's a smooth algebraic, and for any cycle Z in, so a codimension 2 cycle in B cross X, let's assume that the fibers ZB are cohomologous to 0. So you get you get a composed map that I denote by phi z from B to G3 of X, which to B associate phi X of the cycle ZB. So this is defined set theoretically, but the point is that this map is algebraic. People say use the terminology of regular homomorphism in the sense that for any geometric families of cycles, okay, the map that we constructed here, phi z from B to G3 of X, is algebraic. Okay. Okay, so now still there is a problem that here the CH2 of X, in some sense, it's only the limit over all B for all families of algebraic cycles. You consider the corresponding families of cycles modulo rational equivalent. So in some sense, this has only the structure of limit of quotient of varieties by the rational equivalence relation. So it's not that good. So still this isomorphism that is provided by the Bloch-Srinivas theorem leaves open the following question. Does there exist a universal codimension 2 cycle in G3 of X cross X? So say Z. And what do I mean by this? I would like to have actually a family of algebraic cycles which is parameterized by G3 of X itself and which achieves this isomorphism. So what I want, I want Z in G3 of X cross X such that the morphism that is defined here, phi z, from G3 of X to G3 of X, is the identity. So of course, one could start asking the analogous question for codimension 1 cycles. So now not the same X, not to consider any smooth projective variety. You have the theory of the peak zero. And the whole theory works similarly, except that for the intermediate Jacobian G3, you will have the G1, that is the H01 of Y, everything is the same, except that the degrees are not the same. And in that case, well, we know very well, this is exactly the Abel-Jacobi theorem, that we have the same isomorphism, the same Abel-Jacobi isomorphism like this. In fact, in that case, there is a very easy proof via the exponential exact sequence, and then you have to work to understand that this is the same as the integration formula. So, but in that case, the answer is yes. So we can ask the similar question about the existence of a universal codimension 1 cycle, and the answer is yes. And this is given by the Poincaré divisor. Okay, so this is saying for any smooth projective variety, there exists a dy in CH1 of G1 of y cross y. Okay, so the universal case to look at is the case of an abelian variety, and the G1 of the abelian variety will be the dual abelian variety. And this is maybe in that case that the Poincaré divisor is constructed. Okay, and a byproduct of what I am going to explain is the fact that the answer is no in general. Is no in general. I mean, there are examples where the answer is no, showing this is the first formal difference between the Abel-Jacobi map for codimension 2 cycles on a rationally connected trifle and the Abel-Jacobi map for codimension 1 cycles on something. Okay, so now I want to explain how this comes from the study of the cohomological decomposition of the diagonal, and this comes from following proposition or lemma. It's not very hard. It's always the same formalism. If X, now let's assume that we are still in the case of well, so here I just need, let's assume that X is rationally connected. There is no condition on the dimension. As I explained that everything here didn't use the polarization here. So if X has a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal, then X has a universal codimension 2 cycle. Okay, so these are the results that I had worked out a long time ago, before I knew that this notion will have more consequences using this degeneration method. Okay, so maybe I can explain why this is true. This is, one further explanation of the fact that having a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal, it allows to shift all the codimensions, all the degrees by 1. So the codimensions are shifted by 1, and the degrees are shifted by 2. So, but still, let me write it. So your codimension, your cohomological decomposition of the diagonal is like this. That the diagonal. Okay. So this is when we are in dimension any dimension, where Z is supported on divisor cross X. Then, as before, I desingularize this divisor D, and I lift, so that I lift the cycle Z to Z tilde in now it's in Chn minus 1 of D tilde cross X, and then I had arrived at the conclusion that that gave me the formula. So for any alpha in, so this is a degree 3 cohomology, which is interesting because this is on degree 3 cohomology that I construct an intermediate Jacobian. Degree 3 cohomology plus Hodge decomposition. Okay, I had used and proved several times the equality that alpha, so this is by letting act, so now I write this as a G identity of X lower star of, okay? And then alpha was equal to G lower star of Z tilde upper star alpha in H3 of X Z. This now belonging to H1 of Z tilde Z. So now this equality, a priori, it's only a cohomological equality, but all the morphisms that are here, they are morphisms of Hodge structure. So in fact, the conclusion is that and morphisms of Hodge structures of odd weight, 3 and for here and 1 for here, this is equivalent to morphisms between the corresponding intermediate Jacobians or complex tori. Okay, and so because of this formula, I get I get this situation G3 of X. So here I have a certain morphism of abelian varieties, which is induced by this morphisms of Hodge structure. Okay. And these are morphisms of abelian varieties, just the translation of the corresponding morphisms of Hodge structures of odd weights. And now, well, we need to know a little about compatibilities of correspondences with the Abel-Jacobi map. And so now we have this. Okay. So this sequence, so we have a compatible or computative diagram of sequences like this. So now I use the fact that for here, for this, so here I get this Bloch-Srinivas isomorphism. Here, no need for Bloch-Srinivas. And here I use the fact that there exists a universal codimension 1 cycle, so, which is here. So now there exists a D in which is a divisor in G1 of D tilde cross D tilde, which has the properties that the corresponding phi D is the identity of this abelian variety. And then this gives me how to construct the universal codimension 2 cycle as follows. So using this morphism of abelian varieties, I can get first Z tilde upper star So let me see. Identity of D tilde upper star D. So now it's in CH1 of G3 of X cross D tilde. And then this cycle, I will push it forward by the identity of G3 of X and G. Okay. When I push it forward, I get something which is, so I should put, okay. And now it belongs to CH2 of G3 of X cross X. And I call it Z, and it's by this and by the fact that the composition here is the identity, and the fact that this is the D is a universal cycle for codimension 1 cycle for D tilde. You conclude that Z is a universal codimension 2 cycle. Okay, so so this is one aspect of the, as I said, it's a constraint imposed by the existence of a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal that is unrelated to torsion in cohomology, for example. It's of a different nature. And now the last geometric constraint on the intermediate Jacobian is in fact coming from the existence of a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal, is in fact very much related to the Clemens-Griffiths criterion. So now I think I can. So this part was valid in any dimension. And now I come back to the case of dimension 3, where the abelian varieties, the intermediate Jacobians, are in that case, as I mentioned, the G3 of X, for X rationally connected, it is canonically principally polarized. So let G be its a dimension. Okay, so that means that 2G is G3 of X. Now, the point is that we have the so-called minimal class, which is theta G minus 1 over G minus 1 factorial. Okay. So this is a Hodge class of degree 2G minus 2 of this on this abelian variety. When, of course, I do not have this denominator, it is clear that it is algebraic, because the theta is algebraic. But I have to divide by this, and the question is the minimal class algebraic? So it's a very very famous open question that we don't know for general principally polarized abelian variety. It is starting from dimension 4. So if G equals 3, and we know that a general, or any, in fact, principally polarized abelian variety is a Jacobian, the Jacobian of a curve. And in the case of a Jacobian of a curve, then the class, so now G equals 2, so in any case, for the Jacobian of a curve of genus G, the class of the curve C, so you embed C in it's a Jacobian by the Abel map, and the class of C is exactly the minimal class. Okay, so for G equals 3, there is nothing interesting there, but for higher G, that question is not obvious at all. And in fact, I have no idea whether the answer should be yes or no. But the fact is that there is the following implication. proposition. If X has a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal, then the class, the minimal class, is algebraic. So in particular, if X is stably rational, the minimal class is algebraic. So, well, this statement compares nicely with the Clemens-Griffiths statement. Clemens-Griffiths said that if X is rational, so it's stronger, then G3 of X is a sum of Jacobian curves. But we know that Matsusaka, so this is a characterization of the Jacobians of curves, or the sums of Jacobian of curves, one has to be careful, this equality is really as principally polarized abelian varieties. Where here I put the polarization, which is a direct sum, orthogonal direct sum of the various polarizations existing. So it is well known that it is the result due to Matsusaka that this equality, the principally polarized abelian varieties, which are of this form, they are exactly those for which the minimal class, theta g minus 1 over g minus 1 factorial, is a class of an effective one cycle. So you see here the difference. It's that in the Clemens-Griffiths criterion, this is an effective one cycle that you ask, and here this is just the existence of a one cycle. Now the problem is that I don't know if there is any X which does not satisfy this criterion. That's a very famous question. Okay, so maybe I am not going to prove this. Really, the point is that one has to understand what is maybe the trick which explains why this statement is true and how it is related to, well, how it relates the minimal class to this decomposition of the diagonal. So this is the following. The remark is that if you have a principally polarized abelian variety, so it's with its class theta, then the class theta g, so that means that you have the skew unimodular intersection pairing on H1 of A Z, but this then via this unimodular intersection pairing, it becomes isomorphic to H1 of AZ. So now you have a certain, you also get a pairing here. And the minimal class theta g minus 1 over g minus 1 factorial is characterized by the fact that, so now we get, maybe call it like this, okay? This one is on homology, this one will be on cohomology. So now I consider degree 1 cohomology classes on A. So this is the integral over A of theta g minus 1 over g minus 1 factorial. So the conclusion is that finding, so saying that the minimal class is algebraic, is equivalent to saying that the minimal class is algebraic is equivalent to the existence of a one cycle in A, in class of A, such that for any alpha beta in H1 of A Z, this pairing is the sum over gamma of alpha. So, and the last point is that if your A is G3 of X, then you get an isomorphism between H1 of AZ and H3 of XZ modulo torsion. And this pairing here, it is just the intersection pairing on X. Okay. So, and then putting everything together, you get this proposition here. Okay, and so I finish now with the final statement, putting everything together. Now I just proved or explained several implications in one direction, but in fact there is a complete characterization in those terms of the rationally connected threefold, admitting a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. So the final result is the following. Théorème. X, let's assume for simplicity X rationally connected of dimension 3. Then X has a cohomological decomposition of diagonal. If and only if, first of all, the cohomology, integral cohomology of X has no torsion. But because my X is rationally connected, the only torsion that can exist is in H3 or H4. The two are related by duality and by change of coefficient. And so this is equivalent to the vanishing of Artin-Mumford. Okay. And the second, so I need three conditions. The second, that X has a universal dimension 2 cycle. And 3, the minimal class on G3 of X is algebraic. So you see that the necessity of all these conditions, it has been proved, except that I didn't give the proof here. And then, well, in the other direction, it's not very hard to construct a decomposition of the diagonal. Starting from this data, the crucial point, maybe the crucial point. Yes, maybe I didn't say it. What we know where we use the rationally connected, for example, is that we know that the even degree cohomology of your X is algebraic. Okay. So this for degree 4, this is a result of mine that I already mentioned. For degree 2, it's obvious. It's because there is no H to 0. And the second point, how this property is used, is simply the fact that there exists a Q-net decomposition. In the simply cohomological sense with the coefficient. Okay. In this QNet decomposition, the event degree, it's algebraic, so it's decomposable, so we don't care. And the main problem that we meet is with understanding the tree term of the QNet decomposition. So we have to show that in order to construct this decomposition of the diagonal, so to go in the other direction, we have to represent this term of the QNet decomposition by a cycle which is supported basically on some W cross W, where this one we have a dimension 2. And well, we use these two things to produce this representation. Okay, and so finally, the conclusion is this. In particular, as a consequence, a corollary, there exists a rationally connected threefold with no universal codimension 2 cycle. So that shows that the theory of codimension 2 cycles, it has some mysteries that you cannot see in codimension 1, and even if things look apparently very closely related to the theory of dimension 1 cycle. So, and how they are produced, I come back to my situation where this is the family of quartic double solids. So instead of considering the general quartic double solid, I am considering the family of quartic double solids with 7 nodes. That is, so here I will have degenerations, which are the Artin-Mumford double solids, the quartic double solid, and I explain that they have 10 ordinary quadratic singularities, but the deformation theory of nodal quartic surfaces is very good, and I know that I can deform the quartic surface by smoothing independently the nodes. So I deform the K3 surface, preserving 7 nodes and smoothifying the other ones. So that will be the family. So it's not the general one, but with keeping this. Now the point is, so the degeneration method applies to this family, okay, and it will imply that the general XT desingularize. So has no cohomological decomposition of diagonal. Okay. But it is known by work of Zenes that this one also the torsion of here is 0. In fact, the work of Zenes shows that essentially the Artin-Mumford construction is the only one which produces some torsion. And furthermore, now why the 7 nodes? This implies that the dimension of the intermediate Jacobian here is 3. It's because for the generic quartic double solid, the dimension is 10, and each time you impose a node, you lose the genus. Here, the dimension drops by 1. And then, so now if I look at my conditions, because the genus is 3, the intermediate Jacobian is a Jacobian, so this condition will be satisfied. Here I have no torsion, so this condition is satisfied. But because there is no decomposition of the diagonal, I conclude that this condition is not satisfied, and there is no universal codimension 2 cycle. So I stop here.
Are there any questions or comments?
yes. Typically, you consider a surface which has a CH0 equals Z and no torsion in cohomology. If it has a CH0 equals Z, so if it has no torsion in CH0 equals Z, that implies that H10 is 0, H20 is 0, the whole cohomology is algebraic. If there is no torsion in cohomology, there is a QNet decomposition of the diagonal in the topological sense. But because the cohomology is algebraic, the QNet decomposition, it will produce a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. Okay? And then there is this result that I explained 2 days ago, that for surfaces with a CH0 equals Z, the cohomological decomposition of the diagonal implies the Chow decomposition of the diagonal. So now that gives all the, there are not so many examples, but if you take there is at least one Barlow simply connected surfaces with which has an ample canonical bundle and one for which it is known that the CH0 equals Z, so there are now. Then that gives an example where you even do not have the condition on the Kodaira dimension. So.
Any further comments or questions? If not, let's thank Professor Claire Voisin for this excellent series of lectures.